Here's the way I view this situation. And Rex, when he being Joe Burrow, injures the calf in the preseason, we viewed it as they have two options. One, you don't hurry him back, and you live with the fact that you might lose your 2 division games to start your season. Or you rush him back to try and win. Now the worst case scenario has taken place. He comes back, he looks like he re-aggravates it, and they lose both division games anyway. This was the worst start the Bengals could have possibly had.
100% correct right there. Without question, Greeny. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. And yeah, he was, obviously healthy enough to play or whatever, but was he going to play like Joe Burrow? If he can't move, part of his game is his mobility. His mobility in his pocket and his mobility to escape the pocket and create with his legs. That's no longer there. He's a different guy without that mobility.
The other piece of it is, too, the contract plays a part in this. You know who Joe Burrow is. Like, Joe Burrow became Joe Burrow at LSU because he was cracked back on. They knocked him senseless, and that brought the competitor out on him. And then we saw him throw 60 touchdowns the next year after that bowl game. And so he's not going to sign a contract that makes him the highest paid player in the league by far and say, guys, I'm going to sit out because my calf is a little tight. So if you're Zach Taylor, you have to protect Joe Burrow from Joe Burrow. You have to say, bro, we've started 0-2 before. We did that last year. But if you're healthy, we can find a way to get our mojo offensively and win games down the stretch. Now you put yourself in a position, not only are you 0-2, but the most important player on your team is hurt. And like
but the problem is you're 0-2 in the division. It's not like you're 0-2 winning outside. You've dug yourself a deep hole. I always talk about divisional games count like a game and a half. Man, it's going to be hard digging yourself out of this.
And you said to me that seeing what you saw from Burrow there, that you think that's going to bother him how long?
It's going to linger all season. When we spoke about this in the preseason, I said that injury right there, you have to be careful because if you tweak it again, it's one of those things where it could just literally last all season long.
What do you do now? You sit back and then let him sit for a month? No. Unfortunately,
you're saying you
made your bed.
You made your bed.
You made your bed. You got to let it eat.
They are actually, the Bengals of last year, the only team in the last few years to start 0-2 and wind up making the playoffs.
The problem is this, though. They're drunk on Joe's juice, right? They're so good at just lining up in 11 personnel, which is one back, one tight end, and knowing that T. Higgins is going to win, Tyler Boyd is going to win, Jamar Chase is going to win. That's over now. Right, so now we do need some creativity from offense coordinator Brian Callahan. Show me something different, right? Put me in a position to win. Give Joe Burrow an easy throw. Give Jamar Chase a route that rubs a player off of him because you're in a stack, because you're in a bunch. Let's flood the zones. For 2 years, they've done the same thing, and it's worked. Right? It's getting a little more difficult because now I know, Rex. I know that it's going to be the back shoulder. Right. I know that we're going to throw the jump ball to T. Higgins. Change something up.
You know what's disheartening about yesterday's game? The fact that the Ravens had 2 starters out in their secondary.
Yes.
And they couldn't and the Bengals couldn't capitalize at all.
But
that goes back
Marcus
to what
Williams,
you're talking about.
Yeah, Marcus Williams and Marlon Humphrey.
Right.
2 ballers.
Right. They're both out, and that goes back to what you were talking about as far as the play calling. Yeah. Something has to change. Something has to be different. If you can't exploit a secondary that has 2 big-time players out, there's a problem with play calling.
I'll say this, too, D-Wood. They had 2 starting offensive linemen out also.
Yep.
And you talked about Lamar looked great.
Yep.
That's scary as hell to me.
Right.
Because you know it. And I love the defense coordinator with Cincinnati. But when it's 3rd and game on the line, 3rd and 3 or 4 or whatever, were you surprised that Lamar kept the ball in his hand?
Nope.
I sure as hell wasn't.
Nope.
I'm like, what are we doing?
Like you said, Lamar doing what he does.
Guys, just let him go for a first down. That was garbage.
Big win, Ravens, no question.
Can we please just run the football? I'm trying not to break the table.
Goodness.
Run the damn football. You give Breece Hall 4 damn touches in the game. You're leading the guy that had the most rushing attempts was the quarterback. You're going into a game with the most ferocious pass rush in the league, and you run the ball 10 damn times. With a quarterback that we know turns the ball over all the damn time. How do you expect to win in Dallas doing that? That, to me, is coaching. Coaching. Come on, man.
My goodness, did you ever play for me? Yeah, we went to back-to-back championships when he was there blocking for me. Why? Because we were smart enough to recognize who we were. We were going to run the football. We had a young quarterback, albeit better than this cat, but we were going to run the football, and then late, well, that's what happens. It opens up that passing game. That's how you win. I'm tired of seeing it. By the way, this kid drives me crazy.
Which kid?
Zach Wilson. I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
Zach Wilson, he goes, I was seeing it really well early for 3 quarters. How about we were seeing it well? We were doing all right. And then at the end, he goes, there'll always be things we can clean up. How about you clean up yourself? Anytime it goes wrong, start with I, not we. When it goes well, start with we and not I. You got it ass backwards, kid.
That's just a great coaching point on leadership, right? And what the locker room is hearing. But I just want to say this. I think that we need to go into the meeting if we're Robert Saleh and say, you know what? We don't have guys with great offensive line names like Woody, right? Or DeBrickashaw. Or
You knew DeBrick
or
would be.
Mangold, right? Like those names sound like people that want to block folks, right? We don't have those guys. Those guys aren't walking into the building if you're the New York Jets. He said it, and I know Greeny watched everything on Hard Knocks 18 times. He said it. This offensive line has to reshape the narrative around which they're seen. And they aren't doing that. They aren't doing that in the run game. They aren't doing that in the pass game. And I get what both of you are saying. They didn't have a chance, right? The run game is about momentum. The run game is about starting to fill it out, starting to feel like I'm wearing a guy down. So that means Nathaniel Hackett needs to have a different conversation with himself. I don't have to call plays that I like. I can't call plays that I think are best. I got to call plays based off of who is in our locker room and who our quarterback is. And to both of your points, this is very similar to your teams, except for Mark Sanchez was better.
He was
than Zach
better.
Wilson.
He was 100% better. And he's a leader. He's a leader.
Mark Sanchez made better decisions. Mark Sanchez carried himself in a way where even as an opposing team, you respected that dude. But if this team doesn't get a different mindset and think to themselves, we aren't playing in 2023. We got to go back to 08, 09,
Amen.
2010, what football was then. If they don't do that, this team will be below 500 again, and you'll be trying to figure out if Aaron Rodgers has anything to come back to.
RC, I totally agree with you right there. This team needs to look more like Atlanta.
Yes.
By the way, what's their record?
They're 2-0.
2-0.
They're 2-0 by running the hell out of the football. And then here's the thing. This kid will become a better passer when you run the football. And you're going to get that safety down. Yeah, you're dang right. I'm going to get one-on-ones with Garrett Wilson, who, by the way, nobody can cover. So to me, that's the way it is. Make it that way. And know what you have. And if they do that, the Jets can beat anybody with that defense. But that mentality, we don't know about these offensive linemen. I do know they're both top 10 first-round picks. So how about we learn about putting a 400-pound guy and lean on somebody moving forward is a hell of a lot easier than backing up and pass protecting.
Rex, should that have been pass interference?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Sean Payton has been there, and I don't know if he's the most liked guy by the league, but, man, something's not right because that's clearly pass interference right there.
RC, this was your job once upon a time.
It's pass interference, and you don't understand, too, the panic that some DBs feel in that moment. You understand that you're beat across your face. He's just trying to go make a play. But you have to throw the flag because you do it all game, right? It's about consistency. And just because of the moment doesn't mean that the play isn't illegal. And so for the Washington Commanders, you win. But if you're Sean Payton, you're now 0-2. And where this puts this team is trying to figure out who we are with Russell Wilson. Because yesterday wasn't on him.
No.
There was the interception in the second half to Emmanuel Forbes, but Russell Wilson played good football. Russell Wilson is the reason this team has a chance when you're supposed to be good defensively. And now you get the Hail Mary, you have an opportunity to tie it, and the ref takes that from you. That's difficult.
But you know what? Here's where coaching really matters. We have been talking how would Russell Wilson marry with Sean Payton because everything's about timing and rhythm down in New Orleans. They finally did what Russell Wilson does best. Russell Wilson is one of the best deep ball throwers that we have in the league, and we saw that aplenty in this game.
Just one thing here. All right, that marriage between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, everybody questioned it week one. They only had 6 possessions in week one.
Right.
All right, here's the thing. Not that this thing popped in my head. Great job by Himbo. The Denver Broncos lead the National Football League in points per possession. The problem is on the other side of the ball.
Their defense.
Where they were supposed to be the best in the league had somebody been taking the job. Why they're not playing that way, I have no idea.
Okay. But let's be real here, okay? Because it is fair. It's only the second game in this offensive system. They're doing well, generally speaking. But there was a drive. The reason that they're down late in that game is because they have the ball right down by the goal line with a chance to score. Yeah. And Russell Wilson looked terrible on that drive down there. He had an easy touchdown that he threw much too hard. He made some bad decisions down there. Well, let's grade on a curve here. Russell Wilson's supposed to be a great quarterback. He was not great in that game. He was just better.
Yeah, so he was not great at points, and I made this point during my call. We're not grading Russell Wilson like a second-year quarterback.
Right.
We're in some ways looking at that improvement is better because he was so terrible last year. Right. But this is the step in the right direction for this marriage. This is a step in the right direction for Sean Payton and Russell Wilson in this sense. Week 1, I felt like through it was 6 possessions, I believe it was, they tried to be who Sean Payton needed them to be. Yesterday, they were who Russell Wilson and this team needs him to be. Now, don't get me wrong. If this team isn't relevant and viable as it pertains to the playoffs as the season goes along, I believe Russell Wilson's seat gets hotter. But if they continue to do the things that he's good at, I believe this team will play better. I believe they will get better. And we have to start pointing to Vance Joseph and what this defense is because they're supposed to be what keeps them in the game to allow Russell to make those plays.
That's exactly what I thought. And seriously, when I was studying them, I'm like, oh, my God, this team is absolutely loaded on defense. You shouldn't be giving up 72% completion rate to Sam Howell and Jimmy Garoppolo. What? Was that Marino and Dan Fowler? No, those two right there. So to me, that's where they got to look at it. And maybe, I don't know what the answer is, but they got to look deep.
And on the other side of that game, top of the NFC East, Cowboys are 2-0, Eagles are 2-0, Commanders are 2-0. Yeah. Not too many people saw that coming. Might be an interesting season.
Eric Bieniemy has done a great. Listen, to be down in that game, you were down 21-3 on the road. Eric Bieniemy, the job he's done with a second-year quarterback in Sam Howell. Washington has weapons. Like, I don't know if people understand this. They have serious weapons on the outside, and Sam Howell is making things happen.
McLaurin obviously is a big one here. Quick thought.
Yeah, no, it's McLaurin, but I think it's about the Washington Commanders understanding who they are and continuing to be that. They don't get out of pocket. They don't become out of character. And Sam Howell is a guy that can push the football down the field, and Eric Bieniemy allowed him to do that, especially in the second half.